The year was 2391. Across the stars, humans had built cities on hundreds of planets. They had powerful ships, shining towers, and machines that could fight by themselves. But even after all this, humans had not changed. They still fought wars. On a dark and cold planet called Veltraxonine, war had become a way of life. The rulers here were called the High Concord. These were rich and proud families who believed war must follow old rules. Soldiers marched in perfect lines. Generals gave long speeches. Battles were planned like dances. They thought it was the only way to fight, but they were wrong. In the wastelands, far from the cities, a new force landed. Their ship was small and hidden under the dust. No one saw them arrive. These were not Concord soldiers. They wore no bright colors. Their armor was black and worn. Their eyes were cold and sharp. These were the Earthborn, thought to be gone for over 100 years. The leader of this group was a man named Luke Harris. He was tall and quiet. His face had deep scars, and he carried an old rifle that never missed. He had fought in wars no one remembered and lost people no one talked about. He was not here for glory. He was here for something else. Luke was a woman named Nora Lane. She was younger than him, but just as dangerous. She had fast hands and a faster mind. Nora could break into any system, control any drone, and find patterns in places others saw only noise. She didn't need to shout. When she spoke, the others listened. They came with a small team. No one had ranks. No one needed medals. They trusted each other because they had survived the same darkness. They moved through the dead zones of Veltraxonine like shadows. While the Concord generals gave speeches, the Earthborn were already inside their borders. One night, a Concord outpost exploded. No alarms were heard. No warning was given. The next day, food lines went down in 3 cities. In another town, power failed and Concord troops were left blind. Every time the Concord tried to strike back, the Earthborn were already gone. The Concord called these attacks dishonorable. They said it was not true war. But the Earthborn didn't care. They didn't follow the old rules. Their goal was not to play a game. Their goal was to win. Luke and Nora knew the Concord had strong weapons, but they also knew something else. The Concord had become lazy. They were used to easy battles and slow wars. It never faced fighters like the Earthborn. One night, Luke stood on a cliff, watching the Concord city below. Lights flashed in the sky as drones flew past. Nora stood beside him, her eyes on a tablet, tracking patrols and weak points. "They won't know what hit them," she said. "They already don't," Luke replied. They had no need for big speeches or banners. They had each other. They had purpose. And most of all, they had a message to send. The Concord thought they knew war, because the Earthborn had come back. This time they were not asking for mercy. The fires from the last attack still burned near the city walls. When the Concord leaders met in their tall towers, they wore fine clothes and gold medals. They spoke in long, careful sentences. They did not know who was hitting them. They did not understand the kind of war that had come to their world. They still believed they were safe. But fear had begun to grow. General Alden Maris stood at the front of the meeting room. He was one of the highest leaders in the Concord. He had fought in more battles than most. He trusted in power and order. His voice was strong and his eyes cold. "These criminals do not fight with honor," he said. "They hide in shadows. They use tricks. They are not real soldiers. They're cowards." But even as he spoke, he knew things were changing. His best troops had been fooled. His machines had been broken. His walls had been breached. He had seen what these fighters could do, and he had heard a name. People were whispering about someone new, someone dangerous. They called her the Queen of Cinders. In the dark lands outside the Concord cities, far from the Golden Towers, a woman stood in an old camp made of steel and broken parts. Her name was Cassandra Voss. She was once one of them. She wore their colors. She lived in their halls. They had tried to kill her. They called it peace. They said it was a meeting. But it was a trap. Her ship was shot down. Her guards were killed. They thought she was dead. But she survived. Old Earthborn fighters found her in the ruins. They healed her. They trained her. They showed her how to fight not like a soldier, but like a storm. Now she was back. She wore dark armor and carried 2 short blades. She did not speak much, but when she did, her voice burned. People followed her because she gave them something the Concord never did. Truth. She did not care about noble blood or old rules. She cared about the people who had nothing, the ones left behind, the ones that Concord used like tools. They were ready to fight for her. Cassandra sat at a metal table with Luke Harris and Nora Lane. A small map showed the next Concord supply route. Heavy trucks, slow patrols, weak signals, easy. They will send more soon, Luke said. Stronger ones. Let them, Cassandra answered. We don't hide. We strike harder. Nora smiled as she tapped on her tablet. We just got a message from the miners in Sector 7. They're ready. Want weapons. Give them everything, Cassandra said. They've waited long enough. The Earthborn were not just fighters now. They were a movement. Farmers. Miners. Lost soldiers. People who had been pushed down for too long. Cassandra had become their symbol. Across the Concord worlds, more attacks began. Supply ships vanished. Towers fell in silence. Power lines sparked out. And every time, someone left a mark. A circle with fire through it. The Concord leaders watched their systems fall one by one. They sent more troops, built bigger machines, but they were always too slow. General Maris slammed his hand on a table. Find her, kill her, end this now. But it was already too late. The Queen of Cinders had returned. And she did not come to take back her place. She came to burn it all down. The Concord was starting to feel the pressure. What began as small attacks had now turned into a wave. Systems were falling out of control. Command centers were breaking down. No one felt safe, not even inside the deepest bunkers. Every day, more people joined the Earthborn cause. These were not trained soldiers. They were workers, farmers, engineers, and teachers. They came with old tools and broken gear. But Cassandra Voss gave them a reason to fight. She gave them fire. Luke Harris led a strike team into a Concord weapons lab on a moon called Talon Ridge. The Concord had built a secret base there. It was said to be working on something powerful, something that could change the war. Luke had been given one mission. Go in, take the weapon, and destroy the rest. Nora Lane guided him from a control ship floating above the moon. Her hands moved fast over the screen. Voice stayed calm. Guards on the west wall are moving. You have 60 seconds, she said. Luke and his team moved through shadows and broken pipes. They wore black suits that kept them hidden from cameras. They reached the lab door and planted a small charge. When it blew open, smoke filled the hallway. The team went in fast. Inside, they found rows of machines. Cold lights shone down on glass rooms. Behind the glass were children, some no older than 10. They were wired to chairs, heads locked in place, eyes wide open. One of the fighters, a man named Grant, looked sick. What is this? They're building human drones, Luke said. No thought. No fear. Just commands. They had turned children into weapons. Nora's voice came in again. We need to get that data. The whole galaxy needs to see this. Luke nodded. Copy that. They downloaded the files, then set charges across the lab. As they left, they freed the children they could carry. The rest were too weak to walk. The base exploded from the inside. Fire and smoke rose into the sky. Luke and his team escaped just in time. When the footage was shared across systems, it spread fast. People were shocked. Mothers cried. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Young officers in the Concord ranks started asking questions. Cassandra made a public broadcast. Her face was calm, but her words were sharp. They do not fight to protect you. They use your children. They call this order. We call it evil. We will not stop. The Concord leaders were silent at first. Then came fear. Then came anger. General Maris ordered a full lockdown. He sent out kill squads to hunt Earthborn leaders. Cities were turned into prisons. Checkpoints were built on every street. But it only made things worse. In secret, whole units of Concord troops began to switch sides. Some left their posts and ran to Earthborn camps. Others stayed inside the system, feeding Cassandra's team secret reports. Nora created a new AI system that scrambled enemy drones. She used old Earth code, the kind the Concord had forgotten. With one signal, she shut down an entire fleet during a major battle. The enemy ships dropped from the sky without a sound. Luke led new raids with better weapons and faster tactics. He no longer needed maps. He'd been fighting for so long, he could feel the weak spots. He never missed. Cassandra began to prepare for something bigger. She met with her top fighters, her eyes clear and steady. "We strike the capital next," she said. "We show them they are not safe. We show them we are not finished." No one argued. They were ready. The Concorde had pushed too hard for too long. The fire was rising. There was no going back. Cerberus Prime was the heart of the Concorde. It was a rich world filled with shining towers, clean roads, and endless lights. The people there believed the war was far away. They believed nothing could touch them. They were wrong. Cassandra Voss stood inside a dark room with her team. Around her, fighters checked weapons and maps. Luke Harris leaned over a table, marking the city's weak points. Nora Lane sat beside a screen, watching live feeds from hidden eyes already inside Cerberus Prime. "Their patrols change every 6 hours," Nora said. "Their defense towers are slow to turn. Their power grids are all connected. We hit one, we can shut them all down." Cassandra nodded. She looked at the others. These were not just soldiers. They were rebels, workers, teachers, miners. They were tired of being controlled, tired of fear. They were ready. "We do not strike just to win," Cassandra said. "We strike to show them the truth. They think their towers make them strong, but towers fall. Let's bring them down." The plan moved fast. Dropships were hidden under shipping crates. Fighters were smuggled in as workers. A group of engineers planted charges under the power lines. At the same time, Luke led a team through the sewer lines that ran under the city walls. When the first tower went dark, people thought it was a mistake. When the second tower fell, they started to panic. Then all lights went out. Streets went black. Screens shut off. The sound of sirens filled the air. Cassandra's message played on every speaker. Her voice was clear. "This is not a request. This is not a warning.
Yes.
This is the fire you lit when you turned away from your own people. Now it comes back to you." As the Earthborn moved through the streets, Concorde troops tried to fight back, but their weapons failed. Their drones dropped from the sky. They were not ready for this kind of war. Luke's team moved building by building. He took out enemy guards with sharp shots and quick strikes. He never stayed in one place. Kept moving, kept leading. Nora sat in a small room above the city square. She used her system to control enemy cameras, opening safe paths for Earthborn fighters. She locked doors behind them, opened gates ahead of them, and blinded the Concorde's eyes. In the center of the city stood the Concorde's main command tower. It was tall and silver, made to look strong and proud. Cassandra led the final team toward it. Fire burned behind them. Smoke covered the streets. Inside the tower, General Maris stood with his last guards. He watched the chaos through broken screens. His face was red with anger. He gave one last order. "Hold the tower. Do not let them in." But it was too late. Lysandra and her fighters broke through the main doors. A short battle followed. Sharp, loud, brutal. In the end, Cassandra stood in front of the general. He raised his weapon. She knocked it away. "You brought this on yourself," she said. He stared at her with hate, or nothing. She did not answer. She turned and walked away. Outside, people filled the streets. Some wore Earthborn colors. Some wore nothing but fear and hope, but they all watched. The Concorde flag was pulled down. The fire symbol of the Earthborn was raised. Cerberus Prime had fallen, but this was not the end. It was only the start of something new. The system had broken. People had risen. Cassandra had shown them what power really looked like. It was not in gold. It was not in towers. It was in fire. The skies over Cerberus Prime were dark with smoke. Fire still burned in many places. The tall towers of the Concorde were broken and silent. Streets once filled with fear were now filled with people standing side by side. Some held weapons. Some held nothing. But they were all waiting. Cassandra Voss stood at the top of the old command tower. Wind moved through her dark hair. Her armor was scratched and marked with ash. Behind her stood Luke Harris and Nora Lane. They were tired, but their eyes were sharp. Round them, Earthborn fighters guarded the tower. Below, the people waited for what would happen next. Cassandra did not give a speech. She did not raise her voice. She looked out at the people and gave them a simple message. We are done being ruled. We are done following their rules. From this day forward, no one will decide your life but you. There was no cheering. There was only silence. Then came a slow sound. One person clapped, then another, then many. The sound of hands clapping grew louder and louder until it filled the city. It was not joy, it was not pride. It was something deeper, it was belief. The Concord had fallen. But now the question remained, what would take its place? Some Earthborn wanted to form a new government. Some wanted to destroy all old systems. Others wanted peace and nothing more. Cassandra listened to them all. But she did not sit on any throne. She did not take any title. I did not fight to wear a crown, she said. I fought to make sure no one else could use one to hurt the people again. Luke helped rebuild the city's food lines. He worked with former Concord soldiers who had changed sides. He did not care about their past, cared only about their future. Nora set up a free system for messages and power. She taught young people how to use tech the Concord had kept hidden. She believed that power belonged in every hand, not just in a few. Across the stars, other Concord worlds began to rise. News of Cerberus Prime's fall gave people hope. Some systems broke away on their own. Others joined with Earthborn leaders to form new councils, not rulers, just guides. General Maris had been taken far away. He sat alone in a small room, watched by those he once ordered. He asked no questions. He gave no answers. He had lost everything. One day Cassandra visited him. You had all the power, she said. But you forgot who gave it to you. It was always the people. Now they've taken it back. He said nothing. Cassandra left the room without looking back. Years passed. The old Concord buildings were taken down. In their place, new centers were built. Schools, farms, clinics. Not ruled by fear, but led by hands that once held chains and now held tools. Luke trained the next group of defenders. He taught them not just how to fight, but why to fight. Nora became a teacher. She showed young minds how to ask questions, how to build, and how to protect what they had. Cassandra disappeared one day. No one knew where she went. Some said she returned to the wastelands. Some said she walked among the stars. But her words stayed. They thought they knew war. We showed them war is not about death. It is about choice. It is about never letting anyone take your life from you again. And across the free worlds, her fire still burned.